Hey, Yagaho guys, week 13 of the GBA here, and it's the last two games of the season, both going to be rematches, so we don't have we're out of the playoffs, of course, so just trying to make the most of it and see what we can have happen in these last 2 weeks. Anyway, so this is our rematch against Nexus and the Escavaliers, and last time we had that awful disconnect that there was no way we could repair that, and so we just ended up restarting from scratch on Showdown, and didn't really enjoy that very much, even though I ended up winning. Still did not enjoy that. Pleased to report that that is not going to be the case this week. We did get this game finished with no disconnect. So the only major roster alteration for the Escavaliers is the trade with the Chicago Grambles, where they shipped out Crobat and got Rotom Wash, which is of course a pretty big pickup. He's already got Rotom Cut, but Rotom Wash, it's hard to argue with that. However, that also came at the expense of Nexus's first round pick coming in this year's coming draft, which currently looks to be a pretty good one, as I think he's still unfortunately setting at a, I guess it would be 1-12 record. So it could be first overall, depending on how we suss things out with the new teams coming in, and of course picking up a compensation pick at the end of the draft, since everyone has to keep 10 non-Mega Pokemon. Anyway, going into what we brought. Alright, so the loss of Crobat actually significantly impacted the strategy this week, as that removes his only good Defogger or Rapid Spinner. He's still got Moltres left, but that's 4 times weak to Stealth Rock, which is not a trait you want in a hazard remover, unless your name is Specially Defensive Scyther, and that's a shout out to the one guy I know who has used that set. Anyway, so we're going to be bringing heavy hazards this week. Of course, we're going to bring Stealth Rock, and we're also going to bring Spikes and Toxic Spikes, so Cloyster is going to be bringing a bulky support set this week. Pretty much Impish Max, and I actually found the case for Shell Armor, as I'm not really fearing anything Overcoat would block, nor am I using any Skill Link stuff. So there we go, we got to use all 3 abilities of Cloyster this year. We also have Ice Shard in case Zygarde starts to go on a bit of a rampage. It's going to be 4 times weak, of course, although it's not going to come anywhere near killing it. In fact, it might only do about 50%. So this Cloyster is uninvested. And then for the 4th move, I went with Toxic. Main reason for that is Rotom Wash, or Rotom Cut for that matter, is going to be levitating over the additional damage from Spikes, and also potentially Toxic Spikes. And I like to get those things Toxic. If they're Resto Chesto, make them rest, fine. But I figure Cloyster is going to be a very inviting switch-in for either one, as particularly Rotom Wash, as you see there, resists both the stabs, and it's about the best possible Cloyster answer I can think of. And so getting it Toxic on the switch-in is going to be beneficial. So taking it from the top, though, we got Zapdos with a bit of a wonky set this week. We got HP Grass, Volt Switch, Roost, and the 4th move, Air Cutter. Could have been Heat Wave. Might have actually been a better idea. It's going to do a little bit more damage to Mienshao, of course, than would a Stab Thunderbolt. And it's also a thing that I can actually hit Zygarde with that's going to be, not 60 base power on Stab. So yeah, it'll only be 90 power, granted, but just in case Zygarde wants to come in and block a Volt Switch. HP Grass was there mostly because last time we had against Rhyperior, and having HP Ice and him having Weakness Policy, that was very vexing, as I couldn't hurt the thing unless I activated Weakness Policy, so HP Grass would knock it down a little bit quicker, although it would still also need some prior chip damage. And HP Grass, of course, also good against Rotom Wash, and also against Slowbro, in case he brought that, because my only electric attack is, of course, going to be Volt Switch, which I wanted to bring to keep up the momentum in my favor, as, if he has to switch out more often, that's more hazard damage, so he might set up Stealth Rock with either Bisharp or Miltank, which will be problematic. Of course, I brought no Spinner myself, but I've got Rocks and Spikes, so hopefully it'll even out that way, or tilt in my favor that way. Suicune, I really wanted to bring a novelty set that I got from my buddy Malice, but he had 2 regenerators with Mienshao and Slowbro, so I knew I couldn't rely 100% on the hazards to wear everything down. He only ended up to bring 1 regenerator guy, but of course that is Mienshao. It's going to have its sash broken every time it switches in, even with having regenerator. So we still wanted to bring Roar, though, since of course there's Dragon Dance, there's Swords Dance Bisharp, so I want to be able to get rid of those. And Protect for additional Toxic Stall on if we get anything Toxic, of course. And then that's just your traditional Ice Beam and Scald. Whimsicott, going to be bringing both stabs this week. A little bit bulkier than I usually like to run it. Just enough speed to outspeed the Mienshao. Grass Whistle for that Hail Mary. I'm about to get swept. Let me try to get a 55% chance at putting you to sleep. And I really like this move on Whimsicott. Priority Cotton Guard is pretty sweet, and will actually allow him to live 2 Iron Heads or 1 Swords Dance Iron Head, because it, of course, outpaces the boost from Swords Dance. So, you know, if we can get Bisharp down low enough, then I'll actually be able to survive a Iron Head from it, which should be pretty cool. And also, just it'll allow it to get in on a at least one Dragon Dance Zygarde. You know, maybe make it use Extreme Speed, and then get up to 2.5 times defense off 1 move, and that'll be pretty good. Of course, also resisting Zygarde stab anyway. So, and having Moonblast, which also knocks out Mienshao fairly handily. Let's see what else we got. We got Chansey is going to be bringing pretty much my usual Chansey set with T-Wave. Nothing too high-tech right there. And then Mega Alakazam, I wanted to breed for Hidden Power Fighting because the only thing I really wanted to use it on was Bisharp, which is 4 times weak, and yeah, it's going to get waxed by HP Fighting. I knew I wanted to bring, you know, sub 3 attacks, so substitute Psychic and Shadow Ball. But ultimately, I guess, you know, it's week 13, we're not making the playoffs, so got a little bit lazy and just threw Focus Blast on there and said, you know what, if it misses, it misses. Fine, whatever. So we'll see how that plays in over the course of the game. Let's go ahead and get into it. Thinking about who to lead out with, I would really like to get those hazards up ASAP. It is a bit of a risk if he wants to lead out with Rotom Wash or even with Mega Gardevoir, but I decided to go out and lead out with Cloyster, and we get him in against a Mienshao, so I'm pretty okay with this matchup. Probably wants to fake out, of course, so we'll get to see if he's Life Orb or not. And I'm just going to be keen on setting up spikes. He does have Stab, High Jump Kick, which is going to be pretty powerful, but we're pretty easily going to take one. You know, we are pretty much max defense here with base 180 defense, and he does indeed go Fake Out, and you can probably know from that damage, and if not from the damage, and just the fact that I have leftovers, that we are going to be a super bulky Cloyster. And from there, we're just going to set up spikes. That's going to be Cloyster's #1 job that I want him to do this game. If he does absolutely nothing else, get up at least 1 layer of spikes to really punish those switches. Multiple layers of spikes would also be helpful. Toxic Spikes may or may not be helpful. We do have T-Wave on Chansey, so, you know, maybe something that's toxic that I would, or poisoned or toxic that I would kind of rather have T-Wave, so that's going to be something to consider. But anyway, he's just going to U-turn out instead of trying to go for the kill. With that, and go into, of course, the pretty much, I think, one of the best Cloyster answers in the game in the form of Rotom Wash. But we do get spikes up, so that's, you know, the main thing I wanted to do there. If this scenario plays out again, of course, we'll have spikes up, and to likely break any Sash. We didn't see Life Orb on Mienshao, so it's most likely Sash based on what he likes to run. And yeah, we'll be able to sling off a Toxic maybe at this Rotom Wash next time I expect it to come in. So thinking about what to switch into here. If it happens to be Trick Scarf, Megazam would be nice. For pretty much anything else, I would rather just go into Chansey, absorb the Volt Switch, and go from there. Of course, Volt Switch is going to allow him to drop in whenever he wants. You know, potentially Bisharp might be the most dangerous thing. And of course, he does go for Volt Switch, which is, of course, going to decimate Cloyster. And that is, of course, why we have a special wall in the form of this thing. So, see what he wants to go into here. Probably either Bisharp or Mienshao, of course, which now is going to be taking damage. But it's, well, we can't confirm yet if it's got Regenerator or not. It's the first damage that it's taken whatsoever. So, it would be nice to T-Wave this thing. That would be appreciated, but I don't want to lose my leftovers or my Eviolite to a potential knockoff. If it wants to carry it, so we've only seen 2 moves. I'm just going to go ahead and go into Falzer. Of course, he's going to have High Jump Kick, and don't know if he's going to have Knockoff or Stone Edge for his last move, since, of course, Chansey is going to be pretty devastating, or, you know, Knockoff's good. So, anyway, fakes out Zapdos on the switch, and I was kind of afraid he might predict that and go Stone Edge, and which I'm pretty sure we're going to 2-hit KO, despite this being a bulky Zapdos. And now he's got some damage on there. I figured maybe we just want to go ahead and go for Air Cutter, in case he wants to try to stay in and get a Stone Edge off and just go ahead and lose Mienshao, lose a major threat to Chansey. So that's what we're going to go with. And instead he drops into a Miltank, which is going to take Air Cutter and takes it decently well. And yeah, so right here I'm kind of afraid of Toxic coming in, and I kind of think about just straight hard switching, but I decide, you know, I don't think he's going to have a significant amount of speed investment in there. I'm just going to go ahead and Volt Switch. It's going to give me some more damage on there. It's going to make him more inclined to Milk Drink, and I do end up to be faster, so that's good. And I'm going to take this chance to go into Chansey. Of course, you see he's not switching, so I'm just going to go into Chansey and see what he wants to do. Goes for Body Slam, which kind of seems to be a curious move to use. You can't even get the Parahacks against a Zapdos. But anyway, so he's going to Milk Drink up, and I'm just going to use this chance to set up Stealth Rock, and there you go. We got Stealth Rock and Spikes. I am feeling pretty decent right here. There's not really too much else I want to do. Seismic Toss is an option, but I'd kind of rather just go ahead and get the hit points back. I've taken a Volt Switch and a Body Slam, which isn't too much, but, you know, I'd rather be at full. So, Sin's out. Yeah, that thing that I've certainly had people tell me to have a Bisharp named Mega Man or a non-shiny one named Proto Man, but it's got to be the Ralts family, guys. Tradition says it's got to be the Ralts family. I'll have a Bisharp one day, and it may or may not be blue. Anyway, actually looks more like Flashman with the helmet to me. For some reason, I guess the yellow on the helmet. Anyway, so we're not. Kind of want to stay in and get this thing paralyzed. I will live a knockoff quite handily. The main reason I decide not to stay in and go for T-Wave is because if he's got Swords Dance, Sucker Punch, you know, that's still going to be able to hit stuff even if he's paralyzed. So ultimately I decide we're not going to do that, and I decide, I believe, Suicune? Yeah, I decide to go into Suicune to take knockoff. It's not going to enjoy it very much, but it's going to take under half, and then, you know, this thing's main attacks, you know, knockoff is now going to be doing less damage because I lost my item, and Iron Head, of course, is going to be resisted, so he's probably not going to want to stay in, and, you know, that means we could either Scald and a Switch in, or we could just Roar, which is going to rack up more damage, so that's what I'm going to decide to go with. It goes ahead and drops in Miltank to absorb stuff, and there we're going to Roar him out into the Mega Gardevoir, so there's some additional damage. I guess that's really only additional damage on Miltank, which is going to be able to Milk Drink it off. But also forces him into this, which he may or may not have wanted to go into. So, loses a good chunk of its life there, and this is... I think I tried to make multiple things on this team to answer Mega Gardevoir, and then I remembered I have Chansey. Just you know how you handle Mega Gardevoir? You go to Chansey. Go to Chansey. It'll have Psyshock, of course. We'll see how much that does right here, see if he wants to go ahead and go for that. Between some, you know, Hyper Voice has a lot higher base power. Actually packs T-Bolt, which, is that even any stronger against... is that even any stronger against, what is it, 90 plus 50% plus 30%? That's barely, yeah, that's barely any stronger than Hyper Voice against Suicune, but whatever. Anyway. So yeah, we just go for S-Toss there in case he wants to... The main thing I was afraid of, actually... was going to be something like a Wish and Calm Mind Mega Gardevoir. That was going to be potentially pretty scary if it can stick around longer, but I'm hoping that's not going to be the case, given that he's got T-Bolt, probably doesn't have any, a lot of, more than one status category move he's going to be able to go for him. So, anyway, this thing comes back in yet again, and last time I went into Zapdos, and I feel like it's kind of really predictable, but I would kind of like to go back into Zapdos again. It's going to, you know, eat a Fake Out, it's going to eat a U-turn. It just seems like it's going to be the best thing. It's still got leftovers, unlike Suicune, of course. Suicune does have Protect to maybe, you know, get a high jump kick to fail to connect. But taking it down to single-digit timer right there, and I decided, yeah, let's go ahead and do the same play, I guess, and just go back into Dose, and that is indeed what we do. We could live a high jump kick, I'm pretty sure, with the Chansey, since we now have confirmed it is Regenerator, since it came back in at full HP. But I figured the combination of Fake Out and High Jump Kick, no. So I'm just going to go into Dose, and I believe we do the same play again, where I just go Air Cutter again. Yep, I just go ahead and go Air Cutter again, and this time it's a good bit lower, and with that leftovers damage, if I had T-Bolt, it would probably KO, but I don't, so I'm just going to go Volt Switch. If we had a crit Volt Switch, we'll probably kill it, so I'll just go ahead and Volt Switch here, and if he wants to go into Zygarde, I guess that's a thing, but anyway, we're going to Volt Switch out, and what am I going to drop in? I don't really need to drop in Chansey anymore. I've got Stealth Rock set up, so I'm just really going to be predicting a Milk Drink here is the main thing I'm thinking. He's going to want to get back up to full HP. Since he's taking under half from all my attacks, he can stall me out, so I'm just going to drop in Alakazam, and wow, what a good play. Yeah, T-Waves as I had Zapdos out. And wasn't necessarily inclined to switch. You know, I could have easily stayed in. I think a 2-hit KO'd probably with Air Slash or Air Cutter if he didn't want a Milk Drink. So instead I got Megazam in, and he's now paralyzed, and So anyway, we're going to stay in and Mega Evolve and go for a Focus Blast, take this thing out. Is it Milk Drinks? Never mind. there's Focus Miss rearing its ugly head, so I figure, well, I'm at full HP, you know, Megazam gains a little bit of physical defense when it Mega Evolves. Hopefully from there we can still kill it with a Focus Blast, so come on Megazam, make up for your miss right there in my laziness and not running HP fighting. And hit this Focus Blast. However, I am thinking about, now that he's seen I'm going to want to go Focus Blast, maybe he'll switch to Mega Gardevoir, which 4 times resists it. Maybe I should go Shadow Ball, but that's going to be, you know, if he stays in, it's going to be stupid. Psychic is a middle ground option, but then of course Bisharp's immune to that, so we're just going to go Focus Blast again, and it misses again. So now Megazam is down to about half. If he had taken less than half, I probably would have went ahead and stayed in. But instead, I'm just going to go ahead and switch out. Maybe something else can get paralyzed, and, you know, Megazam can at least outspeed that. But at the least, Megazam's going to be the first death fodder, should we need it at some point to pick up the initiative. So I'm going to save him, though. I'm going to go ahead and go into Cloyster, since I don't really care too much if Cloyster's paralyzed. It's going to take almost nothing from Body Slam, of course, with leftovers and max defense. Since it is a more supportive set, the only attack move is going to be Ice Shard. So there's a T-Wave that would just go ahead and guarantee the paralysis. And right there, I believe I am slinging a Toxic at this thing, so I can start wearing it down. I still don't know if it's got Heal Bell. We've only seen, what, 3 of its moves: Body Slam, T-Wave, and whatever. So here, there's a Toxic again. We can't even get Rotom Wash Toxic, so that's... Of the last 5 turns, I've done absolutely nothing on 4 of them, and right here is where I felt like the momentum really is starting to shift in his favor. I should probably be thankful I don't have more damage. You think, like, giving someone 4 free turns over the course of 5 turns, that could go south really quick. You know, I've got 2 guys paralyzed, which, you know, Megazam being paralyzed is pretty awful, as that's, you know, kind of one of the goals of this team, you know, wear a lot of stuff down, and then, you know, maybe we can sweep with a Megazam without needing any boosts. But anyway, so I decided to go into the Whimsicott this time, take Volt Switch, and just generally take anything that the thing wants to go for. And, yeah, so here we go. We got Bisharp versus Whimsicott, and he's brought in Bisharp twice. That Bisharp is still above the KO range I would like it to be at for Moonblast, which is only going to really do... what is it going to be? It's going to be like 40 to 49%, I think, according to this calc, something like that. So that's definitely well above that. But I think maybe one more switch in of Spikes and Stealth Rock, and he might be in range for that. So, you know, this is an example of trying to repeat. If we can have this pattern repeat of switches, then it'll work out to my advantage, of course, because of Injury Hazard. It's, you know, basic Injury Hazard stuff. So I decided to go into Gregor, which should be able to wall him pretty well, and we actually double out into Mega Gardevoir. So if I had decided for some reason to go Moonblast, it'd probably be a dead Mega Gardevoir right here. Yeah, that much damage on it already, I think it would kill. Anyway, so once again, Mega Gardevoir, how do you handle it? You go into Chansey. Once again, he has T-Bolt, which I'm a little curious why there's T-Bolt. Maybe something else on the team is T-Bolt was for? Maybe. Anyway, so there's Psyshock. Of course, he's going to have that. I think he used it last time. And I kind of have nothing else to do. You know, he's going to be faster, so I suppose I could have T-Waved it and maybe gotten Softwell up that way, but I figured, I'm just going to go ahead and kill it while I got the chance with Seismic Toss. Also, if he wants to switch, you know, if he switched in this thing on a T-Wave, that would be pretty terrible. So, just go and get damage on there and pick up the first kill of the match. So, here's this thing, and Suicune's still sitting around 60-ish% HP and has Ice Beam, so I'm going to be pretty confident. Run a quick calc there to make sure I can live 2 of something, especially with, well, actually, I don't have leftovers anymore. So there's Dragon Dance, and we see leftovers, so he's going to be a bulkier Zygarde, so I don't expect this Ice Beam to kill, but I do expect to live a +1, probably have a +1 Outrage too, although Outrage is going to be risky with me having a Fairy type, so I may just go EQ. But instead he actually goes for the second Dragon Dance, and I'm going to Ice Beam it, and yep, sure enough, it lives with not too much HP, and leftover certainly saving the life there. And now he's at +2. Let's see how much this Earthquake does. Thankfully, Suicune hangs on with just 8 HP, and we're able to finish that thing off. We were a little confused after that, but turns out that's just, yeah, Zygarde just doesn't have the muscle without Life Orb to break through Suicune, or so it would appear. So, and so, you know, we trade low HP lives, but I ended up getting mine advantageous. And the second Dragon Dance there actually could have been really good. I expected to die there from that, and from there I was going to have to go into Cloyster. Hope I didn't get full parried on an Ice Shard. Alternately, I could have gone into Whimsicott and Cotton Guarded up, but at that point we've got, you know, +2 Zygarde running around, and I'm just glad that that was not the case. So I protect here just on the off chance that he wants to go high jump kick and finish me with that, or predict a switch to Chansey, something like that, but there's no reason to do that. Of course, when he's got U-turn, so I'm just going to pick up the KO with U-turn, and it's going to be the first thing down on my side, and see what he wants to drop in, and then we'll have our choice of what to go to from there. We got, of course, a wall on both sides. Gonna go into Rotom Wash, and that's going to be pretty heavily favorite to drop in Whimsicott, as Whimsicott's going to pretty much totally wall it, and can threaten it with Giga Drain. I'm not sure if we've seen if it's got Scarf or not. I don't think we have. I think we've just switched out on Volt Switches so far with it, so I don't think we've confirmed held item just yet. So I'm just going to Giga Drain. We can see that it's not Scarfed, and see what it wants to do. It's just going to Volt Switch out and get me down to, I'm getting what? I think I actually end up with the exact same HP after this bout of Leftovers gain that I was at, so which I guess makes sense, because didn't he Volt Switch out on it earlier? I think so. But anyway, so as I was talking about earlier, this is the same sequence that repeats now, and now, of course, because of Spikes and Stealth Rock, this thing is now down below 50%, but I'm not confident it's going to KO with Moonblast, so I'm actually going to go ahead and Cotton Guard first, and that way I'll be guaranteed with Leftovers to take 2, just in case that first Moonblast does not KO. And yeah, just going to Cotton Guard up and see what he wants to do, and fully expect either a Swords Dance or an Iron Head. It's going to be an Iron Head, and I can see from that much damage that, yep, I'm going to be able to live a second one comfortably. So I'm just going to click Moonblast here, hope it KOs, and I actually get a crit, so the damage variation ended up to not matter. He said the Bisharp was Scarfed, and I'm not sure. That's weird. If he was Scarfed, even if he was Adamant, assuming he was max speed, he should have been outspeeding this Whimsicott, so I'm really not sure what was going on there. We couldn't figure out what happened. But anyway, whatever the case, Whimsicott still outsped the Bisharp and killed it with a crit, so there you go. Anyway, so that's a major threat down, and now we've only got 3 things left, and I still got 5 guys. Feeling a lot more confident at this point, when I was definitely feeling kind of down after the 4 out of 5 turns being for naught. So once again, I'm going to go into this thing, and I'm going to sling Toxics around, as I would still like to get. I would like to get this thing Toxic. I would like to get Rotom Wash Toxic. I wouldn't mind getting the Mienshao Toxic if he goes into that. But there we go. I'm just going to get that thing Toxic, and you know, with some Toxic damage negating Leftovers, I'm almost tempted to try for an Ice Shard. Actually, there is no Leftovers. I'm almost tempted to try for an Ice Shard. But it's uninvested. He does resist it, and I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't want to lose Cloyster. Looks like it can probably take out Miltank on its own, and it can also do decent enough damage to the you know, live at least 1 hit from the Mienshao. So we do indeed see Resto Chesto, so I did make him rest, but he's now, of course, back at full HP. We do have Zapdos with HP Grass, and Whimsicott's still remaining, though, so not too big a deal. And here, because he had to use that turn to rest, here we're going to, of course, you know, expect Volt Switch, and I'm just going to try to T-Wave on the switch into Mienshao, which is indeed what happens. And we get that thing T-Wave, no Lumberry, so yay. I'm at low HP, but I figured at that point getting the Paralysis on Mienshao was going to help me win the game a lot more than getting 50% back on Bliss, or on Chansey. So there's High Jump Kick trying to kill off the Blissey, and we get Zapdos in for close to free. And from here, Zapdos has a pretty decent matchup against everything else. So it's going to switch in the Miltank again. It's going to take Spikes. It's going to take Stealth Rock. It's going to take an Air Cutter. And finally, Air Cutter does what it's supposed to do and gets a critical hit. And at that point, that looks low enough that I think a non-crit Air Cutter will still kill. I'm half tempted to go for Volt Switch to ensure it'll kill, but oh well. I think he also said that Miltank was supposed to be Sap Sipper, but we traced Thick Fat earlier, so that could have played a factor with HP Grass. Ended up to not matter, though. So here's this thing, and I'm going to go ahead and Roost, and that was mostly to, I think, what was that for? To see if he was faster or not, because with enough speed investment, even if he's not Scarfed, he could still be outspeeding. He missed the Hydro Pump, so there was that. But he's not going to be faster, so we're just going to HP Grass, and we actually get another critical hit. Although I think, based on how much damage that did, he's down to about 25%. I think it would have 2-hit KO'd anyway. I'm not totally sure, but I think it would have, since crits are, of course, only 50% more. And so it looks like that's going to allow Zapdos to clean out the game, as we got an Air Cutter here. He's going to fake out just in case I miss an Air Cutter and he can maybe steal a kill with Stone Edge. And make the score a little bit closer, but we don't miss Air Cutter, and there you go. That was actually 3 crits over the course of 4 turns, so there you go. Air Cutter actually succeeding in doing what it does, and we pick up a nice 5-0 victory out of it. Alright, so good game Nexus. We definitely had some hacks going on both sides. Towards the middle of the game, had that 4 out of 5 turns where I was doing absolutely nothing, and then towards the end of the game, of course, a couple crits to have nothing else speed up the game. Don't know how much they actually impacted things. Could have potentially affected the score, I'm not sure. But at least impact was minimal. So yeah, also glad that we did not disconnect. Since I think that game, I actually have not had a DC, so I'm very pleased about that. My fight card's been really coming through for me since I deleted the potential for the 3DS to connect to anything else and then get disconnected. But we did, however, end up playing this game late. We played it Sunday night, which I know that was one of the things this year we wanted to curtail, was games being played late. So that, you know, Magnitude could get the recap video up Sunday and all that good stuff. But just for various reasons that kind of ended up being a lost cause, I guess. Hopefully we'll get some policies instituted in the off-season to where we can really put the damper on the games being played late. We also have had a couple of games this season that ended up not being played, which I guess is even worse than being played late. But anyway. So yeah, with the win, we do move to 5-8 on the year with a -5 differential. Of course, it's a big boost up from our -10 that we were at going into the game with the 5-0. So it's actually still possible that we could finish the year with positive differential if we can get a 6-0 over Kyle in the Grambles next week. But I'm not necessarily going to go for that. I'd just be glad to get out of the season at 6-8. I think that would be a decent way to end things off, and it's gonna be not easy. You know, there's no playoff stuff on the line. I'm not exactly sure how much it's gonna impact draft picks. At this point, I think Nexus has the #1 overall pick pretty much locked up, which is of course owned by Kyle, as of right now anyway. But yeah, Kyle's shaking up his team quite a bit. Last time we saw him in week 4, he had the dual weather with rain and sun. Ended up bringing sun. And then shortly after that, he traded off the rain aspect to Kote and the Toronto Maple Leafeons, making them arguably the most fearsome team in the league, currently poised to make a playoff push, and probably would be my pick to win the league if I were to if I had money. That's who I'd probably put it on. But yeah, so Kyle's now full sun, but he's also got Lucario and I think Cofagrigus. He got Lucario and Umbreon from Kote, and then Umbreon got swapped with Pittsburgh for Cofagrigus. So a couple of new things we're going to have to adjust for, and see if we can end this first season in the GBA with a win and go out with our heads held high. So that's what we're going to be trying to do next week. We got the playoffs coming up in a couple of weeks that I hope you guys will all enjoy. That won't be on this channel, of course, but I might talk some more about that next week. We might also do some exhibition games, if nothing else, against, I think Kote and I have talked about it since we didn't get to play. Might see if Fizzy wants to do one as well. Didn't get to play the Hawlucha either. So other than that, that's the season coming to a close. So hope you guys enjoyed this vid, and I'll have the season finale up for you next week. Later days.